Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of In Case You Missed It. Now, because we don't have access to the robot lab, we don't have access to Robot C, or you don't have access to it. I can run it here on my computer, but unless you have Windows at home, you won't be able to run it. Now, I'm running VirtualBox and I can run Robot C in my VirtualBox on my Mac. If you have a Windows license, you could install Windows on VirtualBox and do this too, but I think probably most of you don't have a Windows license. By the way, Windows is not free. I heard some students saying it is free. The only thing that's free about Windows is the upgrade to Windows 10 if you have a Windows 7 license, which is not free. So, we are going to use this tool. Now, Miss Momeni and I just came across this 2 days ago, and we're still finding our way with it, but it's at the moment, okay, Tim, thank you very much. At the moment, it looks like a very easy tool to use. I haven't figured out how all of it works, but most of it. Now, if you go to this URL, onlinegdb.com, sign up, create an account, it's free, it's fast. So what is it? It is an online compiler and debugger for C and C++ and many other languages. So because we're using Robot C, this ties in nicely. Robot C is a subset of the C language. That's where it comes from. So everything we do in here applies to what we'll do when we get back to school. Now, just as a sidebar, where does GDB, what does this name mean? I don't know. I'm always curious when I see an acronym or I see a word that I don't understand. I like to find out where did it come from? Well, if you go back in time to the Unix world, before there was Windows, before there was Mac OS, come on, Tim, stop bothering us. There was a operating system which university used. It ran on mini computers. Industry used it. It's called Linux. Sorry, not Linux. Unix, and it's been around since the late '60s. Well, there was a guy at MIT called Richard Stallman, who's sort of the father of the open source movement, and he wanted to run Unix on his personal computer. Well, he decided to build a system that was like Unix, but not Unix. It would look and feel like Unix, but it would be written from scratch. So he called this new operating system GNU, or GNU. And this stands for, the G is GNU, not Unix. So he was building this thing, and he built all the peripheral programs, the compilers, assemblers, linkers, editors. And the last remaining part was the kernel. Every operating system has a kernel, and that's the hardest part. So he figured, I'll do the easy stuff first and do the kernel last. Well, he had great difficulty with the kernel. It's not an easy job. Well, in the early 90s, there was a student at University of Helsinki named Linus Torvalds, and he wanted to also run Unix on his personal computer. And he started not from the outside, but from the inside. So he built the kernel first. And he got a kernel working. And at about the same time that Richard Stallman he'd been working on his kernel for a long time. Well, here's a kernel that's already up and running, which Linus Torvalds called Linux. And so they combined these two things to produce GNU/Linux. So when you download Linux and run it on your own computer, instead of Windows or Mac OS, which is what I do at home, you're getting the GNU operating system plus the Linux kernel. Now, in addition to this, as part of this GNU project, there is another program, another tool called the GNU debugger. And that's where our name GDB comes from. It's the GNU DB, debugger. Now, this is a way to debug your programs online. That means walk through your program step by step. So back to here, and that's one of the things you can do. There's this debug button over here, and we'll get to this later. I haven't figured this out, how to operate this completely, so I'm not going to talk about it. But just be aware that using this tool, you can debug your programs. As they get large and you have bugs in them, it's nice to be able to step through the program one statement at a time and try and discover what's going wrong with it. So in this environment, this is a new project. After you log in and create your account, you'll see your user ID here, and I can create a new project. So I click on that, and this is what you'll see, and this is the famous Hello World program. Historically, when any programmer starts learning a new language, the first thing they do is write a Hello World program, and that's what they've done here. Now you can run that program. So if I click on, now I've selected the text version of this output console down here. And if I run it, it will display the output of the program down below. And there it is, Hello World. Now this output panel is nice. You can make it large. You can push it back to where it was. You can collapse it all the way down or bring it back up. Now, if I, let's see, if I run this program again, let's see, how do I get back to, now over here, let's see, if I run it again, yeah, how do I get back to the other console? I forget, but anyway, this is the console we're going to use for the moment, the text window. So, now, each time you create a project, you have to save it first. All projects are saved upstairs at Online GDB. So if I click Save, I'm just going to name this project Test and save it. And it indicates that it's been saved. Now, you can come over here to My Projects. And now I have 2 copies of this project. I'm going to delete one of them. And there it goes. Now, these are projects I've been working on. You can rename the project, you can delete it, you can download it to your computer, you can share it. It's a very nice feature. And you can fork it. Fork it means it's like a remix in Scratch. But this is cool. So suppose you want to share your code with someone like myself or someone else. Click on here, and you can copy this URL. Command C, close this. Now if I open a new tab and place that URL in there, there it is. Now if you had given that URL to someone and they weren't logged in or didn't even have an account, this code would be displayed. It would go to this site and display this code, and then they could do whatever they want with it. They could save it as a project of their own, they could edit it and save it and send it back to you. And yeah, so this is a handy way to share code. So if we come back to our project, I'll just click on it here and open it again. So I won't go into all the details about what the code means, other than to say that the syntax is the same as Robot C. It's also the same as JRU, which you talked about in year 8. Now, there's a couple of things you didn't see in JRU or Robot C, namely line 9, and we'll explain what this means later. What else can we say about this? There is a small tutorial in here, so learn learn C, click on here, and there's some examples, description of, we're going to talk about almost all of this stuff. And let's go back to that for a minute. So for example, the if else statement gives, it's concise. But the nice thing about it is not only it explains what the construct is, but it gives you a sample, and you can run the sample. Now in this case, this is very similar to what you did in Scratch. It's going to display whether this number is odd or even. And here you can see, now if I come in here and, why can't I edit that? I thought you could edit this code right here. Well, anyway, let's run it. And it's going to report that Okay, is it slow or is it just not doing it? Let's run it again. Okay, so here it said the number is even. Now I should be able to edit that. I thought I could. Well, maybe it can, maybe it can't. I don't know. Maybe I have to first fork it and then play with it. But so you can see the code and you can run it and see what it produces. So that's a cool feature. And it also has lots of examples in here. So lots of sample code. Here's an example of a program that adds two numbers. Okay, it looks a little cryptic. Don't be put off by this. This could be formatted a little better to make it a little easier to understand. But before too long, you'll be able to make sense of all of this. All right, let's go back. There's no easy way, it looks like, to get back to the development environment. There's no buttons back to the IDB develop or GDB develop. So I'm just going to press back. It's kind of an ugly feature. All right, anyway, so you've got Learn Programming here. It's got a form where you can ask questions, and you can log out if you want to get a job. Look here. So what else? Okay, let's now this is what we will get set up and working in class. This is a great feature. So if I save this, okay, it's now saved, and I download it. So I'm going to, and I've already downloaded this once before. So I'm going to call it main2. .c is the file name extension for C programs. So I'm going to put it on my desktop just for kicks. Oh, I already have one called main2. I'll call this one main3 and save it. You can save it locally to your desktop, but you can also save it to your Google Drive. Now, I don't think we discussed this yet, but in class, we will discuss how to install the Google Drive app. This is a great feature. So now I can download this to my Google Drive. I'll explain how well this works, but watch this. It's magic. So I download it to here. And you can see it's been downloaded. Close that. Now if I go over to my Finder, I have a folder called my Google Drive. And here is the file I just downloaded. And I can open that up locally using text edit. And here's the code. Doesn't look as nice, but there it is. Now, I can also, because it has downloaded it to here, to this Google Drive, which is a mapping back to my real Google Drive. So now if I come back to the browser, and over here, I click on here, and if I scroll down, I can see, let's see, where did it put it? Okay, was I lying? Where did it put it? Where is it? Okay, it's in there somewhere. Let's go back here. Maybe it hasn't synced. Now this is the Google Drive app up here, and you can see it has synced that file to my Google Drive, so it should be there. Now I'm going to just refresh this. And where is it? I don't see it. Okay, a little bit of a quirk, but this does work, and I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it. But the idea is that you will be saving your code from here into your Google Drive, and then from your Google Drive, you can look at it. Let's try this again. I'm going to download it. And this time I'm going to put it. Now I can see all your folders. I'm going to put it in Elliot's source folder. I'm going to put it in there, save it, And it's saying it's done. Now I'm going to come back to the browser, go to the Google Drive, go to, let's see, Elliot's in 921. Here's Elliot, source code, and boom, there it is. Now, if you have installed the Notepad Anyfile extension for Drive, if I double click this, this is always a little slow starting. I don't know why it takes this long, but more crummy ads. And boom, there is the file in your Google Drive. And you'll be required to upload your code into Google Drive. And from here, teachers can look at it. I could make a comment saying, for example, I put a comment in your code, this looks correct, or this is not correct, or something. So I can edit your code and save it. And you could look, and then I could tell you, well, I edited your code, go look at it on Google Drive, and you can see, comments that I made. I can't edit your code over here. So being able to put it on the Google Drive, and then both of us can see it. So this is really nice, and let's see how it goes. We're still finding out how all this works, but at first glance, compared to other tools we looked at, this is very simple, very clean, and easy to use. We'll talk about it more in class. Okay, that's enough for now, and we're going to sign off.